Welcome everybody to episode 90 of Drum Education Live. Please subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode. And today we have the amazing Tim Baltes with us.
Hello! Thanks everybody. I appreciate you having me on here. I look forward to talking smack about everyone and everything in the drum world.
Yes, good. We want all the opinions all the time. I'm going to kick off with a question that we ask fairly often, and that is, what do you think is missing from drum education today?
Something that I talk to a lot of my clients about, and something that I bring up very often as a Percussive Arts Society drum set committee member, is the lack of education for young drummers on the other adjacent skills that we really need to learn to try to build a career in this, whether it's part-time or full-time. And that to me looks like both an understanding of social media content creation and social media management, whether it's filming or copywriting or community management. And then on the other side of it, just as important, especially on the professional end, beyond marketing, is audio production. Still, there are so many educators that do not advocate for their students to learn the fundamentals of drum recording. And I think they're doing a disservice to students often because, now here's a whole other skill set that you can put to use when you're not on the road. If you're a touring drummer, you can record yourself to do remote sessions. You can record entire bands, get an hourly rate doing that. And obviously then it translates into a marketing tool too. I live in between Milwaukee, Wisconsin and Chicago here in the US. And neither of those places are, well, neither of them are huge music towns. You know, Milwaukee, we have beer. Chicago, we have pizza. That's about all they have in those towns.
That's the perfect combination right there. Pizza.
I mean, listen,
and beer.
for my belly, it's a good combo, but for my bank account, not so much. So what since I'm not in Nashville or LA or even New York, being able to show people how I drum, the types of drum tones I get, those skill sets, recording and then content creation and subsequently social media management, those are the skill sets that have carried me from being, just another local pub drummer to becoming a person who's played on Grammy award-winning music from my mom's basement. So, that's what I would say. Those are the few skills that I really think drum educators need to consider teaching to young people moving forward.
But wasn't it always the case, obviously not with social media, but with everything else? Because drum teachers, they tend to teach about playing the drums and that's it.
Sure. I mean, in the past, but the career outlooks were much different even 20 or 30 years ago. With the advent of the internet on broadband internet on a wide scale, then you were able to market yourself in a much different way as a drummer. And subsequently, because of other parts of the market, it was no longer widely profitable to be a musician, specifically a drummer. The money in touring has all gone away. The days of being able to get paid regularly for Joe Schmo to get $2,000 or $3,000 a week gigging out, it's gone, and it's been gone for a long time. Being able to be a studio musician and making a couple $100,000 a year and being one of a few hundred who were being able to do that, those days are very, very long gone. And so that's the way that we used to do it 20, 30, 50 plus years ago, obviously served those musicians then. And fortunately or unfortunately, things continue to change in this market, and they continue to change at a faster and faster and faster pace. And so to me, not only are the skills of audio recording and social media content creation and management, are those the types of skills that can set you up for success today, but they're also the types of skills that can set you up for the changes that come in the future. Understanding content, understanding social strategy, these are skills that can help you pivot, and they've helped me pivot in the last few years. I haven't really done a ton of big uh, remote recording projects in years, and that's partly by choice and partly by the way things have changed with the clients I've worked with. Uh, and so now, because I have that background skill set in understanding strategy, understanding marketing, understanding having the ability to change and to pivot with the changes here, I have made the pivot to being more of an entertainer, more of an educator to drummers, and a coach to drummers, and that is a skill in and of itself there. And it's it's being able to change is definitely part of the game here, I think. And teaching that skill set, just having the ability to change, that's a skill set that we need to teach as educators. It's a skill set that we need to uh, garner as drummers, as performers ourselves.
Cool.
That's really interesting. So like you'd say instead of just doing, if you're teaching someone, I don't know, an hour a week, you could break that up into, we're going to do some drumming, but also I'm going to show you how to put a video together or how to record, how to edit. I think that's a lot for teachers to do, but I think you're right, and I think it's an area that I get asked a lot about. And if it's going to continue in this way, then it is a valuable tool, all of these things. So is that the kind of thing that you would do in a lesson? It's like break it up and do all of these things.
It depends. So this is where sort of this coaching aspect comes into the lessons, is that with a client, I have to have a very frank conversation about what their goals are. If I'm talking to someone who literally is just a full-time psychologist who just wants to take a few nights a week to get a release on the drum kit, but they want to make videos so that they can post it for their couple hundred friends on Instagram, yeah, I can teach them. They know what they want to do drum wise, but I can teach them the video and the audio stuff and understand at what level they want to do it, understanding. And this is where gear becomes so important, understanding different types of gear and what's available to drummers. Understanding that person might benefit from using a very simple setup with their smartphone and a Yamaha EAD10 versus if I'm talking to somebody who wants to create a part-time living as a remote session drummer, they have a full-time day job as well. Now I'm going to help them build out a room in their home, determine what kind of gear they're going to need, a huge mic locker, not a huge, but a significant mic locker and some interfaces and the computer and the interface. And then are you going to market yourself? Okay, well then, do you want a smartphone or do you need to step up to a DSLR? This is where the coaching aspect comes in, and it's where, again, just having the flexibility, both in my knowledge and then dispersing it appropriately to students is of the utmost importance, I think.
Sure.
You've had very few drum lessons yourself, but do you remember your first one?
I think, oh gosh, I think the first actual drum lesson I had was with a drummer named Jared Logan, who played in a band called Seven Angels, Seven Plagues. That band went on to be Misery Signals, which was they're still a well-known metalcore band. Jared now is very well known as a record producer, audio engineer out in Kansas City. Very, very good dude, an amazing drummer. And it was funny because it's like, he taught me sort of what I've continued to develop into what I call the punk rock molar, which is somewhere in between a drop catch and a molar. And then just like taught me a basic clave, at I must have been 16, 17 years old. I only started playing drums when I was 15. So, I felt like an octopus trying to get that, independence down in my limbs with that one little beat. But it was, it's one of those little things that becomes so integral to being able to play more complicated death metal beats as I got into my early 20s, or trying to pull a oh, what's his face? A Keltner, and trying to do some sort of goofy, folky beat that sounds like three or four people playing drums at the same time. All of that's born out of that one little piece of a little independence exercise of learning a little clave. So I'm still very thankful for the few things that I got from my time with Jared.
You said you had very few lessons, and how did you progress? Did you kind of know where you wanted to go, or you started learning things according to necessity?
So I think it was definitely at the beginning, it was out of necessity, just learning, okay, I'm going to be in a hardcore punk band, then I need to learn this certain set of beats. I'm going to be in a metal band, I need to learn this certain set of beats and fills. And from there, most of the education I got was just listening to records, playing them back, watching YouTube videos. I'm 33 in a month, so I'm old enough where I was learning right at the advent of a ton of YouTube content coming out, and I was able to really take that in and learn from it. And as far as formal education went, that did come out of necessity. I played my last death metal gig when I was 22. And I remember, I mean, here's a little gear nerd thing, but I was playing, blasts at 240 BPM. I was using Vader Fatback 3A sticks, these giant sticks, and I was playing it on a Mapex Saturn kit with a Evans hybrid head on the snare, and I was the type of drummer that I didn't use triggers, so all my blast beats were basically rim shots. So I'm beating the heck out of the snare, and mind you, this is why I didn't have this was a result of not having a ton of lessons up to that point. And so for the next 3 days, every joint up every finger in both of my hands, they were all throbbing. And I said, this is not good. I quit the band, and then I took several lessons with different educators here in Wisconsin, specifically on how to hold a drumstick and how to throw a drumstick. And that was, again, just one of those pivotal points at changing the way that I use the instrument.
So I want to go back to when you're coaching people and you're putting together a plan, maybe. I feel like there's some people out there who they don't have an interest in social media. How do you get around that if the drummer is a young person and they're like, right, I really want to make a career from drums, and they're a bit anti-socials? Do you say, like, how do you get around that problem, and what do you say to them that will hopefully get them on board?
That's tough. I've had a few students like that. I'm sure both of you have as well. And to me, this just comes down to goals. If the goal isn't to become, the next Tony Royster, then you don't really have to worry about garnering any sort of social media presence. Now, if your goal is to become a working musician, the one thing I always tell people is, however you approach social media, you have to do it in a way that feels authentic to you. So something I teach all the time is just value in figuring out at what regular pace you can continue to put out content, whether that's once a day, once a week, twice a month. And then just understanding that what you're doing is you're building a content library. And that's really important to what I try to teach people, because it sort of dangles a carrot that this gets easier as time goes on. So, if you do, let's say, one video a week for a year, starting from zero, you're going to have over 50 videos in a year. Now, in 5 years' time, you're going to have 250 videos plus. And, if as long as you try to create content in such a way that it feels evergreen, whether that's, for me, what that looks like is I have, like, this month I'm doing a lot of Halloween content. And I can rehash that year after year, and I can just bring back the great stuff. I can pull the mediocre stuff every once in a while, and try it again after a few years. But this builds on itself. So every October becomes easier and easier and easier every year, and I can post more and more and more with much less effort over time. I haven't filmed drums in I think since the end of September, maybe early October. And that's just because I have learned how to economize that process. I have learned how to build that content library. And so that's something I like to tell students is like eventually it gets much easier just to post in the way that we're posting short form content now, because the lifespan of that content, whether you're on TikTok or Instagram, is so much shorter than if you're going to try to post, if you're going to try to be a YouTube drummer. So that's one way to get them over the hump, is just dangle the carrot of the content library.
Genius. It's a genius. Do you, what are your feelings about deleting posts and stuff? Or do you keep everything up for all to see?
I do delete posts once in a great while. Every once in a while, I get like a dog on Instagram and I'll get like 60 likes in the first hour. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And I'll just delete it and wait a day or two and post something else. But almost in any other, and that happens maybe once every few months. But otherwise, I keep all that stuff up, and I think that's part of my brand. Is there's a certain that's an authentic picture of who I am. I'm just another guy having fun playing drums in my basement because that's what I love to do, and that's what I've always done since I was a kid. Um, Now, do I recommend if you have 100 followers and you get 2 likes in an hour to take down your content? No, you got to build an audience, but uh, if you do it once in a while, whatever, it is what it is. But you really have to be cautious with that because I think it does dock you in the algorithm. So yeah, I would just say approach with caution.
Is it possible to be a professional drummer not being in social media? I'm talking about 2022.
Whew. I mean, I think it's much more difficult to do that. I think the people who are able to do that are dads, moms, grandmas, and grandpas. Those are the professional musicians who are able to do that are really at the age of the boomers, and that's because they've built that career pre-social media and or in the contacts professional network, and they're able to continue to utilize that professional network today. But one client I've been working with quite closely is Kurt Biscara, who he's a drummer who played for, Elton John, Tom Petty, Bonnie Raitt, you name it, Hans frickin' Zimmer. This dude has played with everybody and anybody. And, even at that level with that network, here's a guy who is utilizing social media today, and he's enjoying it, which I think is a big part of you have to find enjoyment if you're gonna do this. And that's where the sort of authenticity part of it comes in. But B, I think he is yielding something from this because, as we get older, uh, young people might not know who we are. Even at my age, again, I'm almost 33 here, and a lot of young people, there's a certain group of people from I'd say about 25 to 35 who know who I am. But there are still plenty of younger folks who don't know who I am because I'm an old fart. And then there are plenty of older folks who don't know who I am because they're not on social media. And so, as more of the older folks get on social media, they're able to consume my content. I'll put that in places where they are, specifically Facebook groups. I used Facebook groups to really show myself off to the vintage drum crowd where I've been going to the Chicago Drum Show, which is basically the world's premier vintage show, for a long time, and nobody knew who I was for the first, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years I went, and then I started posting some of these silly videos and drum videos and stuff to the vintage Ludwig groups on Facebook, and custom drum makers and da 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 groups on Facebook, and because that's where older drummers and drum collectors are, they saw that content, they ate it up, and we became Facebook friends. And then by the next year, I go into the Chicago Drum Show, and everybody's calling out my name, and I'm having conversations with everybody. And so it was such a good icebreaker for using that online content to foster real life relationships. And that's what I hope to do on the other end of the spectrum as well. Is there's ton of talent younger in this Gen Z, and the generation to follow. And if we want to stay working and relevant well into the later years of our lives, we have to find a way to connect with those musicians as well. And that's why social media is so important, whether you're 18 or 81.
I do love what you post. It is like a ray of sunshine and really funny and just seems really authentic. And I would really like an insight into how you run your socials, as in, do you schedule your posts? How long do you work on like a particular video? Do you have a routine?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much. And I know we've been little Instagram friends for a long time. We've both been in the community for a long time, and I appreciate the kind words. My so much of my process, whether it's on the more serious creative end with like a drum cover or an education video, or with the ridiculous funny stuff where I'm dressed up like a grandma, all of that stuff is grounded in uh the work I did to build my improvisation chops as a kid. So I actually started off as, well, I played piano when I was like 8. And then, you get to be 10, 11, 12, and you're like, well, what the heck? I can't play piano in a band. And everybody wants to be in a band because that's cool. So at 12, I got a bass guitar, started playing in we called it post-punk jazz rock. This band with, it was me and two other 12-year-olds, and then one of the 12-year-olds, 14, 15-year-old brother. And so the older brother, even 2, 3 years ahead of us, was just, I mean, we felt like we were worlds apart as far as skill level. But what he would do is, whether it was practice or playing out live, he would make us improvise in between every song. So we'd play a song, improvise, do a jam, play a song, improvise, on and on and on. So now here I am, a 12-year-old kid, and he's like, all right, just whip up a bass lick, and then, everybody will play around you. Or the guitarist, he'll play a lick. Now I have to figure out in the moment how to play along with him. So musically, I developed that sense of improvisation, knowing song forms and scales and all sorts of stuff. I learned that skill set right away, and that has carried me into the drum cover stuff that I do today, and it's helped economize that whole process of content creation. Um, the other part of that when I'm creating covers is I only play songs, for the most part, that I have loved for many, many years. So it's much easier to A, replicate what was there, and B, because I've just listened to those songs for so long, I'm able to put my own spin on things and know I'm going to hit it, just right. The other side of that with the comedy is my dad, loved funny movies and stuff growing up. So some of my favorite movies growing up were like Ace Ventura with Jim Carrey. Do you guys know that?
Yeah, do I know that? I was obsessed with that film.
It's so good. So, of course I was, talking out of my butt and saying all the silly words he would say. And, and so while I had garnered that skill set of musical improvisation, far before that, I was, into sort of this comedic sense of improvisation. So now that's where the other end of the spectrum comes in. So like when I was doing the karaoke videos, I never wrote down a single lyric, really beforehand for any of those videos. It was completely ad-libbed. And sometimes I might have to do 3 or 4 takes to like, okay, I got that line that kind of sounds cool. All right, I'll add this, or, but it would come together very quickly. The comedy stuff, I can usually nail 5 comedy videos or so in about 15 minutes of filming. Now, drum covers get a little more complicated. If it's really tough, I can get about 2 or 3 in an hour. Generally, though, I'm getting 6 to 10 drum covers done in an hour.
Oh my God.
But it's just because that becomes, well, here's the thing, though. It's only, I keep it to 60 seconds or less for a cover. So I'm not, when I get to YouTube, I think that's going to be a pain in my butt, because then, you're going to have to start doing full length covers. But for now, these shorter covers are so much easier to do because I'm doing songs I love. I'm not doing the whole song, and I'm doing it my way. I'm not trying to play it note for note. and then the other end of it too is then the AV stuff too. Everything there is economized. So a lot of drummers will film with a DSLR. I recommend that drummers film with an iPhone specifically, and then specifically that they consider using Logic as their DAW. And the reason is that now I have an iPhone 12, and that comes with this sort of codec on there, so the video looks better than both of my DSLR videos. The other benefit of using the iPhone for me is that I can film for over an hour without having to stop. Whereas those DSLRs, if you're filming at 720, what do you get, like 25 minutes, and then half of that at 1080, and then you have to restart that every time. That's a pain. And I don't want to use OBS or some sort of software and extra hardware to try to accomplish longer filming, especially since the camera quality isn't as good as my little phone. So after I film that hour, I can, since everything I use is Mac, I can airdrop from the phone over to the computer. Now there's no cables needed, there's no SD cards needed. And I can pull up my session in Logic, and I can, right from Finder, which for Windows folks, that would be Explorer. So right from Finder, I can drag that raw iPhone video right into Logic, and I can use Logic to turn off the iPhone audio, turn on the nice audio, mix it in the moment, and pull these 15, 20, 30-second or 60-second clips right out of Logic. Now there's no, since it's one angle, there's no need for Final Cut. There's no need for no video editing needed unless I need to do my silly zooms on like a karaoke video or something. So it totally economizes that process now. So it'll take me an hour usually. I'll film usually in about an hour, hour and a half bits. And then it takes me another 1 hour to get through that entire video tops. Usually it's a half hour, but if it's heavy, maybe an hour. It's not a lot of time to yield, again, anywhere from 5 videos in 15 minutes if it's comedy, to 6 or 10 even in an hour if it's covers. So again, everything to me is going through this process over and over, so that you streamline what you're doing when you're on the kit, and really dial in how to get things done quickly, and B, economizing the workflow once you have to create that content once you get in the computer.
I'm making notes here, folks.
I see you.
Yeah.
I'm not even
We're
gonna lie.
see a change in her videos now. I wonder how did that come about?
Well, I thought I was quick because I do on the phone in Logic, but I have a few more steps because I mix in Logic and then I put it on my phone and edit on my phone. Like I match it up on my phone.
The more steps that someone has to accomplishing this, the less they're going to want to do it. And so that's why not only was that important for me, because, again, I'm working a 9 to 5. I've got a life outside of drums, and I still want to build a life in drums. So anything I can do to make that easier, quicker, I have to do that. And I'm so glad that this sort of process has slowly come together, because now it is something that I teach drummers like you. I teach drummers like a drummer who played for what's that gal's name? No, that's going to escape me. Big drummers, big touring drummers who are literally touring with acts like frickin' Lindsey Buckingham. These are the people who I'm helping to do the same thing that I do, and that's really rewarding.
I'm intrigued with something. You said you have a life outside drumming. Is that a thing? I didn't know about that.
Well, when you're from Wisconsin, really all that means is I like to go hiking and I like to go bowling, and that's about it besides drumming.
This is a good thing though, like juggling or life priorities, and like. So what is your question, Kira? My question is,
it's not a question. You just want to say you're a drummer, you're a teacher, you're a mother, you're a wife. That's all that's what you want to say, actually.
No. I feel like sometimes if you're sucked into social media, it can just drain your time. You can feel pressure, and it's hard. And you need to have a check and go, right, what makes me feel happy? What makes me feel fulfilled? So how do you balance, for example, just playing drums because you want to play drums, or, oh, I'm at the kit, I should make content?
So much of that for me is just driven by deeply listening to myself and not to whatever external voices there are. Um, you know, I don't know what it is to be a parent, but I do know what it is to have a partner and to want to continue to forge that deep relationship with that partner and other family. And, there are moments where there are moments where I want to play drums and, maybe my partner needs a moment, and so I'm going to give that to them. There are other moments where my partner comes to me and they say, Tim, you need to go play drums right now because they know. They know. And so, that's helpful to have is a person who can tell you like, hey, dude, you need to go just sit on the kit for a half hour and you're going to feel a
Leave
lot
me
better.
alone.
Yeah, yeah. But, as far as understanding when I need to make content, when I don't, again, I'm fortunate where I'm far along enough in the game where I don't have to make content. Like I said, I really have not made any content this month, and we're at the end of the month. I don't know where October went, but I have sat down at the kit a few times, literally just to. It's almost a meditative act for me in those moments. It's like dim lights. I'm just playing to entire records front to back that I love, that I've been playing front to back for years and years and years. And I don't have to worry about flubbing. I don't have to worry so much about the producing appropriate tones. I can play a piccolo snare on a folk song if I really need to. I don't have to worry about swapping that out. There's no worries. And so yeah, it's being able to deeply listen to myself. That's where I can say, okay, yeah, I can play a 311 snare on a George Harrison song right now for fun, or maybe not. Maybe I should turn on the camera and play blast beats over a Beatles song instead.
Why not?
But do you have a specific time in the day where you work on your social media?
Oh, sure. I usually it's in the afternoons. I'm fortunate to have a flexible work schedule. I am out the door usually by 3:15, Monday through Wednesday, and then I'm at home working from home on Thursday and Friday, so I can right at the dot 3:15 I can hit the kid if I'm ready. And that's really nice. As far as the actual social media management part of it, I've been posting regularly at noon or 12:30 p.m. Central Time for years and years and years and years, and that is just the time that works for me. So every day, like clockwork, on my lunch, I'll just sit there and all right, we're gonna post to Instagram, we're gonna post to TikTok or post to Reddit, and so it's just making that a habit, both posting uh, and having sort of these designated times in which I am filming. Um, that really just helps to, uh, ensure that I can get into that stuff easily and it's not going to be a bother. You know what I mean?
Are you on YouTube?
I've got like 8 dead YouTube channels. There's Teenage Tim, which is out there. Like my original YouTube channel is still out there, where I was filming in like 240p. There's also Drum Digest, which is a dead channel that I had going for a while. And then there's also Drum Nomad, which was when thought I was going to be able to travel around the country inevitably, and then I almost died. So that ended abruptly. But the goal is, I think it's going to wind up being early 2023. I am going, hopefully, fingers crossed here. But I've been putting this out into the world that I am working towards starting a podcast of my own. And there's only so many freaking drum covers you can do. I have literally done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drum covers over the last few years. And so for me, I think the next step is going to be leveraging the friends and colleagues and company that I keep to have conversations just like we're having now, that not only serve to entertain drummers but also educate them, whether that's people our age, or again, the young folks too, like these are invaluable conversations.
He just turned to be my best friend right now. People our age. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. So, but it's so valuable because when I was a kid, again, that was right when in my teenage years, that's really when YouTube started to take off. And I really do credit YouTube with being such a wonderful resource for me learning drums. I remember watching some of those early Guitar Center drum off videos of Eric Moore. That one famous video of Tony Royster when he was a kid on that like yellow Pearl kit. And there are so many of these countless just legendary early drum videos, and not just of drum performance, but also of drum lessons. And as we continue to expand this infinite feeling amount of content that is on YouTube, it's good that we continue to do so because it's free. It's free in the same way that Wikipedia can serve as a jumping off point for writing a school paper. These conversations can serve as a jumping off point for young or new drummers who are trying to forge their own path.
How are you? How is your health? How are you feeling? How are things?
Health is always up and down. I think that's something that's really put a light on how much I really do need to take care of both my physical health and my mental health. I went undiagnosed with failing testes from 2016 through 2020. And basically, my balls were broken by that early 2020. There was no testosterone output, almost nothing. And finally started getting treated for that in early 2020. But, in 2019, that's when doctors told me at one point they misdiagnosed me with something and said, hey, they said it was chronic fatigue syndrome, which is going to turn into multiple sclerosis, which is going to kill you. So that was a huge mental health thing, trying to come to terms with my mortality in a way that I hadn't previously in life. And then advocating for myself and doing the research because I was the one who really discovered that it was probably this lack of testosterone thing. Getting in with doctors. I've been treated for the last 2.5 years. Health has continued to be up and down during that time. Energy levels are widely up and down. I just kind of learned to roll with the punches and to continue to seek new treatments, better treatments to just try to manage this. And I have to have the understanding that the treatments I have to take to sustain my life are also going to take my life early. All of these things have really, again, they spotlight how important it is to take care of myself. And to me, what that looks like is having a job that I can not yell and scream about all the time. I'm so fortunate. I thought for a long time that what I needed was a job in musical instruments, and I got a job at Roland earlier this year, and that was the worst professional level job I've ever had. It was horrible, and that was after having interviewed for jobs in musical instruments for a year and a half. I interviewed with one company for over 3.5 months before getting a no. I interviewed with another for 2 months before telling them no. It was just like hardship after hardship after hardship. And then I got the job I have now. I'm a copywriter at a college, and that was actually the job I wanted before I talked to Roland. And I'm really glad that I got this position now because I can go in, I can do my work, I can get out early, or earlier than I would at a normal corporate job. I'm not there till 5:36. I'm out at 3:15. And I can come home and I'm not as mentally or physically drained as I was at Roland, as I was at my previous corporate job before that. And that's so important. And so I guess if I could leave a message with drummers on that, it's just, if you're able-bodied and you ain't got to take too many pills and potions to keep yourself up and running, be freaking thankful. and take care of yourself. I have plenty of drummer friends who are burning the midnight oil constantly and then completely burning out thereafter, and they're wondering, oh, what's wrong? And I'm like, dude, you just went on a bender of a tour, you came home, and then you tried to get, another month worth of stuff done around the house in 7 days. Like, you can't do that. So take care of yourself physically, mentally, um, and then you won't end up like me. But I'll tell you, I am thankful for where I am now, and even though right now it's been a little tough. The last month has been a little tough energy wise. I've built a life, both professionally and as a drummer, that I can manage this now, and that is priceless to me. So that's how I am right now. I'm doing okay. I'm a little tired, but we're doing okay.
Good.
Took me about
Good.
12 hours to tell you I'm doing okay. How about you like that?
Well,
No, it's
actually, I think it's
important.
great because that's why we have a podcast so people can talk.
Well, I try to create a teachable moment out of it too. I think because whether you're a drummer or any type of creative, I think we so often we take for granted being able-bodied, and but it's so fragile, man. uh, I especially if you're born able-bodied and then you get disabled or chronically ill, it changes the whole game. So I always try to tell people, especially creatives, if you're able-bodied, uh, man, A, take care of yourself, and B, just be freaking thankful. 'Cause that's worth more than any salary you're ever going to earn.
Roland, any words about them and DW? And did you see that coming? Did you know?
I'll
Why
tell
has
you
it happened?
what's interesting is when I was working at Roland, they made me cut ties with every drum company that I was doing work with on the side. And that was really off-putting to me at the time because everything that I was doing was acoustic drums. None of it had to do with electronic drums. Now I understand why they wanted to do that because of the acquisition, which I'm sure was in the works at that point. But again, I am so much more happier now that I am out of there because I'm able to just. I've owned electronic drums, and but I love acoustic drums. That's my thing, and I'm reaping the reward now of having devoted so much time in my life to acoustic drums with my work through Honest Abe Instrument Company. I designed a couple snares for the company earlier this year. I've worked on marketing. I've done a lot of vendor relations, and now we have snare drums with everyone from Atlantic Records studio in LA to Paul McCartney's drummer, Abe Laboriel Jr., and every place from Nashville to Hawaii. So our drums are everywhere, and it's one way to help pay for a lot of the drugs that keep me alive. So I'm really, really thankful for that opportunity. And I'll tell you, it's a heck of a lot more fun than trying to sell a freaking SPDSX. As far as the DW merger is concerned, I will say that there's a reason why I tend to like smaller companies, and that's because I value relationships over endorsements. A lot of people want that on paper to have the endorsement, and to me, that I get it. It feels like a feather in your cap. But one good example in my own life is I have played Remo drum heads for so long, and I've loved Remo drum heads when they work. And now there have been so many issues with the counter hoops that they've been using, and the drum heads falling apart. I posted one in my story, and I was just like, man, is anybody else having this issue? And sure enough, that was my most viewed story of all time. And over 200 people replied just to say that they were having the same issue. One of the people who replied beyond that was the product manager for Evans Drumheads. And he said, hey, you want to talk? And what was so nice is where I also had someone get me connected with an artist relations manager over at Remo, and I appreciate that person. I'm not an artist, but he was able to replace some of the drum heads that had that counter hoop problem. But on the other hand, I was able to go back and forth, long email after long email after phone call with the product manager from Evans. He sent me out a box of product. I bought more product here locally, and I found that the product. The older I get, the more I feel like a drum is a drum, a drum head is a drum head, and once you get those things under mics and processed, are you going to hear the difference between? Are you really going to hear the difference between a 3-ply Ludwig from 1963 and a brand new classic maple kit that where both of them have duct tape and towels and no, you're not going to hear. I don't think you're really going to hear the difference on record. And Evans has supremely stepped up their game the last 5-6 years with their drum heads, and the other entities under Diodario. I've always used Pure Sound wires. I think they make a really, really great snare wire. And ProMark, again, just alongside with Evans, ProMark has really, really stepped up the quality of the product and the different product offerings. And because of that relationship that I built with that product manager, that did lead to my first official endorsement. So now I'm endorsing Diodario via Evans, ProMark, and Pure Sound. But the only reason I'm doing that is because of the relationships that I have with real people at those companies. So getting back to DW, I mean, I know people at DW. I would rather work with a company like Honest Abe, who I'm working with right now, because it's me and the one guy who builds the drums, and we can say, hey, what if we just try this? We can get more experimental. We can get into the nitty gritty. I can make one phone call and we can start building a new drum or a new drum set. Even at the large level, I'd rather work with, Ludwig than DW because of the relationships I have. I know multiple people who work there. I know even more people who work there that champion my work. And, that's important in the relationship, as it does have to go both ways. You get to the level of a DW, you got to be careful about that, because what has eroded in those relationships that you can have with those people there. So that's what I would just caution other drummers about. And, the way that you're trying to form relationships with these different corporations is, do they value you? How do they show that they value you? And how strong can that relationship be based on the size of the company, based on the time that those employees are given you? It's super, super important, I think, for moving forward.
Thank you. Really insightful. Love it.
Really
it's
good.
not, I'm not, there's no food reviews, and I'm not, there's no horse mask or anything, but it's something.
It's great. It's what we want.
Thank you very much. It was great. Good night.
Thank you, Tim.
Don't ask anything else, Tim.
I promise.
That's the end. Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the conversations that you guys are fostering in the drumming community, and I can't wait to see everything from episode 100 on from you folks. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.